So look at these, Franco. I'm assuming they're a bird, but
yes.
obviously not a flying bird. So maybe a grouse or a wild turkey or something?
Yeah. Well, because we don't have wild turkeys around here, it is a grouse, and also a wild turkey would be slightly bigger. And if you think of it, you know, we think of birds flying away for winter, but we have a few that actually stick around here all year round, and the rough grouse is one of them. You can see the tracks are pretty crusty, so these are quite a few days old. But when the snow is recently fallen, for example, Leigha, it's so soft that I've seen rough grouse fly right into the snow, as if you're flying into a snowbank, and they'll spend the night underneath that fresh laid snow.
I've heard of that.
Yeah. And so the snow is acting like a blanket.
Right.
I've also been in situations where walking with snowshoes where all of a sudden they could hear us coming. Of course, we can't see them. They'll burst out of the snow like an explosion, and it's a little bit heart-thumping.
If we get a freezing rain, we
Yeah.
can get trapped underneath the snow. Is that
That's
true?
right.
Yeah.
It's especially if it forms an ice layer.
Right.
This is not really an ice layer. It's a little bit crusted, but they could peck their way through that. So that's really neat, though. I find that, you know, we think of snow as being cold, but in this case, it's helping life survive by providing it insulation. And that's one of the things I want to talk to you about next. Underneath the snow, there's a whole bunch of life that continues to move through the winter. What do you think? What do you think might be still moving underneath there?
Probably mice and the smaller animals.
Yeah, not only mice, but shrews, moles, they don't hibernate. They continue to be active. And what I find amazing is that we've actually measured the temperature. I've been out -20 in a day above the snow. So it's really cold. But if you dig away through the snow, and you find that as you get close to the ground, the grass isn't all crushed. There's air spaces. And the mice and the shrews utilize those air spaces. Look at that. There's actually a space there.
Oh yeah, okay.
The mice and the shrews use that space, and the temperature there is only 1 or 2 degrees above zero. So you may think, well, that's still cold, but compared to -20, that's a big difference. So they can remain quite active, eating dried seeds that they may have stored, and continuously moving underneath that grass.
So a lot like the beavers are still active.
In that lodge,
Yes.
that's right, which is sheltering them from this harsh and the coldest of winters.
Right. So Franco, I think a lot of what we've been talking about today is just how life doesn't stop in the winter and nature doesn't stop in the winter, even though it looks like it when we have lots of snow.
You know, you walk through the bush in the middle of a beautiful winter day, and sometimes it can be so quiet and you think most of life is gone, but really a lot of the life is right here underneath our very feet. And this is a big example of that.
So what about some of the bigger animals like moose and deer? Like you don't typically see them in the winter, but are they still around?
They are. In fact, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I want to show you something really neat.